Hi, my name is Matt. Welcome to the second part of the video tutorial when I show you how to make an RPG game mechanics. Today we will go through an orbiting camera creation. I will show you how we're gonna achieve this effect, and then we will go through some coding session. And of course all the code will be available in the description just below the video. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so before we jump into Unity, I will show you some quick Blender presentation of how we're gonna achieve this effect. And first, we need our player, of course, our camera, and empty game object called center point. And all we care about is its transform component. And then it isn't gonna be child of our player, but the position of center point will always be the position of player. When I move player, the center point will move, but we will rotate it using our mouse input. So when we rotate player, for example, its rotation isn't gonna change, but when we move our mouse by x-axis, this will gonna rotate it. Okay, so then in every frame we'll move our camera into the center point's position, then move it backward and upward by camera distance and camera height, which will be our public variables. And after that we will use transform that lookat to focus camera on our player, and we will do it every frame. So then when we rotate our center point, we will first move camera into this, then backward, then upward, and then use lookat, and this will make camera orbiting around the player. Okay, so that was quick presentation, and now let's go into Unity and script this. Now back into Unity, I have done some changes in our project. First, I create the scene, I called it main and save that. And second one is I have moved player prefab into prefabs folder. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create folder called scripts and create a C# script, call it camera movement, and call drag and drop it onto player. Let's hit edit script, open it up in MonoDevelop, delete those at first, and we won't gonna use system.collection namespace, so let's delete that also. And now first we're gonna need are those two public transform references that I showed you before. So let's type public transform. First is player camera, and second one is center point. And let's move main camera into players move player camera into player camera, and create an empty object called it center point. By the way, I press F2 to change the name, and drag and drop it here. And first, as I said, we want to make center point position. Just leave it at 0 right now. The player's position. So let's execute it in every frame. So in update function. We need to type center point that position equals game object, which is reference to the game object that script is attached, so our player. Game object that transform, which is this reference, that position. Okay, and right now this is our center point. Let me go into scene, and when I move player, center point is still between his legs. I don't really want it to be between his legs, so we will move it upward like 1.58. So let's add to this new vector free value, which is 0 in x-axis, 1.5, let's say 7f in y-axis, and 0 in z-axis. Now the center point position is somewhere over here, and when I move our character, we will see that center point is still in the right spot. Okay, so now we gonna rotate it, and to do that we need to type center point that Euler angles, not rotation but Euler angles, plus equals new vector free, which is gonna be 0 in x-axis, and then input that get axis, call it mouse x, and 0. And now let's start the game. Let me split this. Okay, and now as you see, our center point is rotating. So that's the center point, and then let's move into our camera, and we will execute it in late update, and just because it is executed after the update, and we want our camera be moved at last. So let's type player camera that position equals center point that position. Then add to this center point that forward multiplied by -1, and then add to this vector free that up. Okay, now let's see what happens. As you see, there is camera and I can rotate it, but it isn't really at the right spot and it isn't looking at our player yet. So in order to change that, we will need some public variables, public float. We need distance, as I showed you, height, and let's say orbiting speed, and here we will multiply this by an orbiting speed value. We will multiply this by our height value and this by our distance value. And also we want to our camera look at the player, so let's player camera that look at, and just type center point. right now when we start we will just get a camera sitting in a center point and we cannot rotate it because we didn't set those variables. So let's say 2.3, 1, like 30. Let's try. Yeah, it's really fast. 5, okay. Yes, I believe it's okay. But there is a problem. By what I mean, the rotating around our player is calculated every frame, and by that I mean when we will have FPS drop, we will rotate slower. So we want this to be frame independent. So we will multiply this by time.delta time, and this is a value, it's floating point number, and it is time in second between last frame and current frame. So right now what you can see, I'm orbiting much slower. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna increase them. Or that's still slow actually. 75. Okay, I believe it's okay now. And now our rotation is frame independent. I mean, when we will have like FPS drop, you see now we are going about 19, then we won't see that our camera rotates slower, and that's what we want. Okay, now let's go and make our camera moving in vertical. And in order to do that, let's go to our script and let's add value called vertical speed, and then type height plus equals input that get axis mouse y multiplied by time that delta time, and multiply this by vertical speed, and let's set it to 18, I guess. And now you see it's walking, but first y-axis isn't inverted, and that's a little bit unintuitive. And second one is I can move my camera as far as I want, and in order to change that we need some more variables. So let's add max height and min height, and this variable does not have to be public for now, so let's just type float. And I want this value always clump between those, between this and that. So we achieve that by typing height equals mattf, which is class containing some math function, that clump, and then height, min height, max height. And now we just need to set up those. So let's say max is 1 and min is minus 0.15. And now, as you see, I'm moving this very okay, so let's increase that, like make it 0.7 and make it 1.2, and let's decrease the speed a little bit, and it's okay, but I still y-axis isn't inverted and it's very annoying, so let's change that by multiplying this by -1, or just say minus vertical speed. And now it's much better, I think. Okay, and now let me increase the orbiting speed a little bit and decrease vertical speed. Okay, I believe the camera moves fluently. So that concludes the second part of the tutorial. Today we've created an orbital camera. Hope you learned something, and if you want, you will find the code in the description. So thanks for watching, stay tuned for more, and till next time.